They walked into that courtroom like fighters stepping into a ring. But by the end of day 2, the gloves were off, and NASCAR smashed 2311 Racing harder than anyone expected. This isn't some small dispute. This is about a rocket engine stock car company, co-owned by a legend, being accused of using muscle to kill competition. And trust me, the numbers and the testimony hit like a full-speed crash. Picture this: Denny Hamlin, longtime driver, serious racer, in the witness stand for more than 3 hours. They called it contentious. I call it a cage match of truth. Hamlin didn't hold back. He said that since launching their team with Michael Jordan in 2020, they've poured in about $100 million just to get 2311 Racing off the ground. $100 million. That's not a hobby. That's war chest money. And the costs? Brutal. The first charter they bought cost $4.7 million. The second, $13.5 million. The third, a jaw-dropping $28 million. That's nearly $50 million just for the right to race. But it doesn't stop there. Hamlin dropped a bomb. It costs about $20 million per season to run one single car. That's one car. Not two, not three. One. And that doesn't even touch the driver's salary or all the behind-the-scenes business stuff. Let that sink in. If a charter only brings in around $12.5 million, teams are losing more than $7.5 million before they even race. Hamlin paints the picture clearly. That is what's destroying teams. It's not passion or bad luck. It's a system stacked so heavily against smaller owners they never had a chance. Then came the cross-examination by NASCAR's attorney, Lawrence Buterman. He came swinging. He asked, "Why is 2311 demanding $25 million in damages when that would still be a big return on investment?" Hamlin hesitated. "We want to be made whole for what you did to us." That line echoed through the courtroom, but the pressure kept coming. Buterman pulled up old emails, messages where Hamlin told Jordan the charter system and the new next-gen car made it the perfect time to invest. Yet now, those same things are part of the big monopoly. Hamlin pushed back hard. He said he believed NASCAR when they promised operating costs would drop by 40%. Instead, costs blew up, not down. And now, all that promise stands on quicksand. Then things got personal. NASCAR's lawyer pointed out that on racing podcasts, Hamlin would rave about how great everything was. So why say the opposite under oath? Hamlin paused, then dropped a bombshell. "What I do publicly is put out positive messages. That's my job. You give me talking points. I say it to make fans feel happy." In other words, he admitted he couldn't speak the truth publicly because NASCAR threatened him. He mentioned how NASCAR would call teams to the hauler for technical inspections if they dared say something negative. He told the lawyer plainly, "NASCAR can essentially dictate how I do." When asked if fans should trust what he says publicly, Hamlin shrugged. He repeated, "If he's negative in public, things go bad for me at the racetrack." Moments like that crack the illusion of glamour. That's real pressure, real fear. And then he dropped this memory. A lunch in 2023 with Jim France, NASCAR's chairman, sitting alone at a Nashville restaurant. Hamlin decided to sit down and talk charter negotiations off the record. France allegedly told him it should only cost $10 million per year to run a car, not $20 million. Hamlin looked at him and said, "We've cut this grass so short, we're down to the dirt." He asked France, how can he ever recover his investment if budgets are slashed in half? France had no answer. None. That's when Hamlin says he realized he couldn't sign the new charter deal. He called it my death certificate for the future. It was the only choice, because what they were doing was wrong. But hold on, NASCAR hit back hard. Their attorney brought up that Hamlin and Jordan were charging their own team $1 million a year in rent. And they showed messages where Jordan's financial advisor called Hamlin a reckless spender and a terrible businessman. The courtroom buzzed with gasps. Hamlin didn't even flinch. He said calmly, "Me and Michael, we want to win." Meanwhile, Jordan apparently sat in the front row, grinning, nodding, like he was watching the greatest show in history unfold. People said he smirked and shook his head throughout Hamlin's testimony. He looked like he enjoyed the whole thing, a front row seat to the drama. But then the spotlight switched. The afternoon brought on NASCAR's big strategy man, Scott Prime, Chief Strategy Officer, making about $400,000 a year. He took the stand. And suddenly, 2311's accusations got heavier. Under questions from 2311's lawyer, Jeffrey Kessler, Prime admitted what everyone suspected. NASCAR had worked hard to block any competing racing series from getting off the ground. As early as 2020, emails warned that if another series showed teams there were options, NASCAR would be in trouble. They didn't take chances. They locked down racetracks with contracts that banned any other stock car series. One example, the contract for Las Vegas Motor Speedway, with a 2-year exclusivity clause extending after the main deal expired. That means no competition through 2026, right when that new series had the best shot. Prime also admitted NASCAR blocked SRX series from using tracks owned by Speedway Motorsports, even though those tracks wanted SRX events to make money. Rival races could have saved NASCAR from its suffocating grip, but NASCAR refused, and it gets uglier. Mid-2024 text messages from NASCAR's own top executives were presented. One message from Steve O'Donnell said their approach was dragging the sport back to a comfortable 1996. He called it a dictatorship and a tiny southern motorsport. That's not just internal chatter, that's an admission. Prime replied that their strategy of giving a little money, then booting others, was bold. Another exec, Steve Phelps, looked at charts showing 0 wins for certain teams and said, "We are not moving forward." This is the leadership of NASCAR telling each other they were ignoring every major demand from teams. When Kessler challenged Prime, asked whether teams should get a bigger share than the 20-25% NASCAR offers, Prime admitted the teams had a point. Then it got weird. Suddenly Prime claimed he didn't know details about track agreements, that his job was basically assembling PowerPoint slides. That from the guy drawing the game plan. When Kessler asked how much he made, $400,000. Kessler shot back, "That's a lot for someone who just makes slides." Prime blinked. "That's your opinion." That's when the jury probably realized. The numbers, the deals, the exclusivity, they didn't just favor NASCAR. They were built to crush everything else. The story isn't finished. Next on the stand, major team owners like Richard Childress, Rick Hendrick, and Roger Penske, and eventually Jim France himself. What will they say when all this history, all these documents and secrets finally meet open daylight? One thing's clear. This is bigger than one team. Bigger than money. This is about whether NASCAR gets to decide who races, who wins, or whether competition, fairness, and the spirit of racing still matter. And if you ask me, the deck was stacked. The charges are real. The stakes? Everything. But if you thought things couldn't get messier, buckle up. Because what happened next in that courtroom didn't just expose a rift. It revealed a full-blown civil war inside NASCAR itself. The jury heard not just what 2311 Racing thinks is going wrong. They heard what NASCAR's own leaders are saying when the cameras are off and the doors are closed. Those private text messages from NASCAR executives? They weren't just awkward, they were explosive. Steve O'Donnell, one of the highest-ranking people in NASCAR, called their current leadership style a dictatorship. He said the sport was being dragged backward, stuck in the mindset of a tiny southern motorsport. Read that again. NASCAR's own execs admitting in writing that the leadership is out of touch, clinging to the past and refusing to evolve. And it didn't stop there. Scott Prime, still sitting on the stand, had to explain why NASCAR pushed to block new competitors at every turn. Like shutting out the SRX series, a growing rival that fans were excited about. Speedway Motorsports wanted SRX races. It would have brought in money. But NASCAR slammed the door. Why? Because in private, they feared competition. In emails, Prime admitted a new series could show teams and drivers they have options. Translation: NASCAR's power would vanish the moment teams realized they didn't have to play by their rules anymore. So NASCAR locked down tracks, made secret deals, extended exclusivity clauses long after contracts were supposed to expire. The Las Vegas Motor Speedway deal alone blocks rival stock car races through 2026. That's not strategy, that's suffocation. And then, the Saudi Arabia twist. The courtroom heard that Prime suggested NASCAR make a deal with Saudi Arabia's investment fund, before even talking to their own race teams. That's how desperate they were to keep control, to find new money without fixing the core problems. If that doesn't scream panic behind the scenes, I don't know what does. Meanwhile, 2311's lawyer, Jeffrey Kessler, kept the pressure dialed to max. He grilled Prime on why NASCAR teams only get 20-25% of the sport's revenue, when Formula One teams get 50%. That's double. Kessler pointed out that even Prime himself admitted in emails that teams had a valid point when asking for a bigger slice. So what did NASCAR do? Nothing. Prime openly said they didn't concede on a single major point during the negotiations. Kessler hit him with it straight. You kept all the power. And honestly, no one could argue. Even when Kessler pressed on Prime's bloated $400,000 salary for, as Prime described, putting together PowerPoints, the answers were thin. Prime just shrugged. That's your opinion. That line might have cost NASCAR more than they realize. Because to the jury, to the fans, to everyone watching, it sounded like a guy who just doesn't care. But then NASCAR's defense tried to flip the narrative. They argued that 2311 Racing actually made money. $2.5 million profit in 2022. $3.4 million in 2023. They pointed out that Hamlin makes $14 million a year driving. And yes, they hit that shop rent again. The $1 million Hamlin and Jordan charged their own team. They even said the team is now worth $160 million. So, their question, if 2311 is so valuable, how can you claim NASCAR's system is broken? Here's the thing, that argument might land with casual fans, but the diehards, the ones who know what it takes to survive in this sport, they see it differently. Because value doesn't mean fairness, and profit doesn't mean power. Hamlin said it best when he called the new charter deal a death certificate. He knows what's coming. He knows that under NASCAR's current structure, teams are bleeding cash, while the league hoards the control, the revenue, and the narrative. And remember, Hamlin wasn't alone on that witness stand. Jordan was sitting right there, front row, watching it all, smiling, laughing, shaking his head. This isn't just a lawsuit for him. This is personal. A battle over whether the greatest basketball player of all time and a smart businessman got played by a system rigged from day one. And we're not even done. Still to come, testimony from legends, Rick Hendrick, Richard Childress, Roger Penske. These aren't fringe voices. These are the architects of modern NASCAR. And eventually, Jim France himself, the chairman, the man who, if Hamlin's story holds true, had no answers when confronted by the very teams he claims to support. So where does that leave us? Two sports powerhouses, Michael Jordan and NASCAR, going head-to-head in a courtroom. The stakes? Everything. The future of team ownership, the charter system, the soul of stock car racing itself. This isn't just a trial, it's a reckoning. A line in the sand between those who want a fair fight and those who already control the scoreboard. So now I'll ask you, if what Hamlin says is true, if NASCAR really controls the money, the message, the tracks, the cars, and the careers, then is it still a sport, or is it just a show? Let me know in the comments, because one thing's for sure, this story isn't over, not even close.